Yo, 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 yo. There he is, there he is. What's up with it? What's up with it? Appreciate y'all joining. They coming through, they coming through. Diego in the building, San Diego. Stand up. Yo, yo, yo. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
My God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We in this thing, man. We in this thing.
Baby.
Yeah, man. You do not have the minerals, baby. You can't stand the heat. Get out the kitchen.
You already know.
Mm-hmm.
I did, man.
Man, blessed, man. I can't complain. Dealing with COVID-19, of course, I know it's like a worldwide situation, so hopefully everybody's safe. You know what I mean? Like this pandemic is it's crazy. It's affecting a lot of people, man. A lot of people, a lot of lives. So just got to stay prayed up, man. Hopefully, it doesn't affect anybody's family too drastically, and people are able to overcome it.
Amen. For real. How you coping with that quarantine, though, man?
Man, I'm kind of borderline homebody anyway, so
yeah, same.
It doesn't really bother me too much. I find other things to keep myself occupied, and then, a lot of times work, is always extremely going. I'm part of the essential group, from that perspective, being in the transportation industry. So, yeah, man.
Virtuous 222 is really saying, can we remove all sunglasses? Hey, she ain't talking to me.
She said what?
So can we remove all sunglasses? That ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm in perspective glasses, brother.
Yeah, man. I just got them on. It ain't no big thing, but I just threw on some sunglasses. The sun is out.
They want to read
sunglasses. You see the reflection in my lens. Yeah,
all day people were telling me, make sure you read London's body language. Read his body language.
Hey, I already know, man. This is, this whole situation, man. First of all, I know we're still kind of early into it, 5 minutes, but I've always appreciated, kind of the way you broke down stuff. Even if I don't agree with it, the one thing I can honestly say is you always kept it real, and you kind of looked at it from a neutral lens. And that's a good thing, you know what I mean? That's a craft that you got. So, that's why I chose you, to kind of do a little interview situation where even though you all the way over in the UK,
I know.
Sometimes that's just the way it is, Technology's crazy. I think I told you that I played NFL Europe football for the Scottish Claymores. Yeah, so I was over there in the UK, man. It's beautiful over there.
Damn, man. How was it like, playing football? Because obviously, we see from the UK perspective, seeing you guys in America, we know it's a huge thing. But obviously, I know you did, what did you do, 4 years in the NFL as well? I think you did?
Yeah, 4 years. 4 years in the league, 2 years overseas, NFL Europe. And NFL Europe, what I really liked about it is it kind of brought you back to the love of it because it was new over there. So, you had to really love the game to be playing. Of course, we had people that were probably in the military that were displaced there, deployed. I wouldn't say displaced, deployed there for whatever reason, the different branches. So they already knew about American football, but it was cool to see it grow kind of in Europe, as I traveled through Spain, Barcelona, we went to Ryan, Frankfurt, London, Scotland. So, you got to see the whole different side of the world, which was cool, man, and a blessing.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, the NFL from a UK perspective. So the NFL, was that like? Is that as crazy as it looks? Because it looks crazy. It looks like really. Americans love NFL. So it's like baseball, NFL, basketball. Those three seem to be like if you play that sport, you are set. Whether it's women, whether it's all kind of things.
Nah, I agree with you. Yeah, football, as we say it in the U.S., is American sport, but football, as y'all say it, is soccer. That's really kind of kind of y'all thing over there, which I generated a whole love for soccer and rugby while I was over there, just a different perspective, a different sport. But yeah, football is something else, man. It is, man. But when you're raised to do it, you really don't know anything different. Like running down and hitting another man full speed. That's what you taught. You taught no pain, no gain. But as you get older, it's kind of like, damn, well, if you was in pain, there's probably a reason behind it, right? So, yeah, but that's just neither here nor there. You know what I mean?
Okay, I like that. I see people are still flowing in now. Coming in slowly.
Yeah.
Someone's on the case. Someone here is on your case. They want on virtuous 2 to 2 is on case.
She said
it's on case.
What is she? I don't even see what she's saying. What's going on?
Man.
Stormy, what's up with it? Stormy's like, hey, Stormy from season 1. What's
hey, Stormy? Hey. Mad Stormy, Hey,
yeah.
I Stormy, what's going on with Aaron? I just need to know, did you kill him in the end or something, man? Did you lot string him up? I just need to know, like, that was good. I like season 1 and season 2 was powerful, man. Both of them for different reasons. For different reasons, but yeah, I liked the both the seasons. It was interesting. But Stormy now, jeez, hey, can't say too much for Mrs. in the call in the chat yet. Me, so yeah, man. Okay, no, he's still alive. Okay, cool. They didn't kill him. All right, it's all right.
Yeah, 504 in the building. I see you, fam.
It's crazy out here, man. Hey, Kojo, what's good? London, looking good. Okay, cool. Appreciate it, man. Love, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. So, hey, just even a side question. A question obviously for, I guess, when people are asking, because some people ask me, why did you decide to do the interview now? Why did you decide to wait so long? If someone asked me this, I'm just going to ask you in it.
Nah, man, that's a hell of a question. I mean, honestly, if you go through something like that, obviously going through the whole dating realm when you're really putting your feelings out there, it takes time to kind of recover just to make sure that you're able to talk, from a factual perspective as opposed to being angry or being revengeful. Some of that did take place. And I like to stay positive. I don't want to spread. There's already enough negativity going on in the world. God rest the soul of the individual that was assassinated here in Georgia not too long ago from a hate crime. So we got a lot of stuff like that that's going on in the world already. And I wasn't raised like that. And I was put in an environment that I wasn't used to moving in. I was completely out of my element because I was trying to figure it out, right? And I think that, and I've stated this before, everybody's hopeless romantics, whether they want to admit it or not. Somebody wants a significant other. Somebody wants somebody that they can grow together with. And the issue happens is you convince yourself that you don't need somebody else. But we all do. And right now is a prime example. I mean, you get sick with this COVID-19 and you don't have nobody, you're really out there, So what really sparked me to finally doing the interview is I never went on the show for clout. Granted, we all walk around with a sign on our head that says "Make me feel special," right? So everybody likes attention. Let's be real. Everybody wants to feel wanted. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. So with that being said, once the show was over with, I was just trying to get back in line with my day-to-day life that I already had prior to the show. And just get back to my grind, which is me working in corporate America and making sure that that's okay. Because I was scared the way that was going to be reciprocated. I had just took a promotion and being primarily a industry that there's not a lot of African American in, it made it a whole nother peak for me to make sure that I blend in. And here it is, I'm on the OWN network on a show, drama filled with a lot of different, cuts and turns that, can defamate somebody's character. I mean, it really can. I mean, perception is reality, right? So what really sparked me, honestly, is all the love that I've been receiving from South Africa, because the show just aired over in South Africa. It just finished, I guess, last week. Okay. And I got a lot of DMs and a lot of encouraging words. And unfortunately, in the U.S., it was kind of a little bit different. You know, I got love, but Black Twitter is undefeated. You know, so
it's undefeated.
Yeah, so you know, it was refreshing, kind of, that people saw through all the editing and everything that I was trying to be me. That I went there with good intentions. And not only that, a lot of times when you're yourself and you're on camera, you know, the camera don't lie, and everybody got faults in their personality, right? Impurities. I mean, that's human nature, man, to have imperfections. And in this society, we just, you know, we want to be perfect. Everybody wants to be perfect. They want to get their body done. They don't want any blemishes. You know, they want to get their teeth straightened. You know, it's a lot of stuff that people do to become the norm, and I'm not the norm. You know what I mean? So
okay. So obviously, even just saying that, so let me throw the spanner in the works straight away for us, because obviously, you're absolutely right. You know, I remember you commented on a couple of my reviews from early on. You showed love, and we even chopped it up a few times, even as well, in the DMs of Insta. We're talking back and forth about different things that were happening on the show. I think obviously where we butted heads, because you talked about obviously reputation, you talked about, you know, you're in the capital world in America as well. I think one of the things that we kind of butted heads on was one of the scenarios where I did a review and I spoke about, obviously, I felt like, London, you lying. I said, outright, London, you lying. You know, what you said. You what happened? Like, tell the truth, London, you're lying. And we obviously had a good kind of conversation after that. I think we had a very open, honest, man-to-man conversation about that. But I want to kind of you just kind of explore that a little bit more. So describe obviously that time, what was kind of going through your head at that time, because I know it was a very open, honest conversation we had, and it was a good one at that. So I just want to kind of you to describe a little bit in terms of the scenario, what was happening, and what was going through your head.
Well, a lot of times people don't realize that we don't know what else is going on in everybody else's day. So you got to take everybody's word, right? No matter what kind of movement you do. And, you know, I had a connection with Divine and Alexis the entire show. So you got to realize as time progresses, more drama, more energy, more anticipation, more stuff of the unknown is built up, right? So you got all this stuff kind of building up throughout the entire show. And I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm stuck between these two women, trying to determine who can I foresee myself with long term. You know, I had Divine on one hand, which, you know, was the more mature, you know, because, of course, she's older, more mature, etc. And then you kind of got Alexis, which we run into a lot of times, and you kind of got the potential, right? You see the potential. So you kind of stuck in the middle of that. And I think all the emotions that were drawn up, it got to the point where if I can't have him, then I'm going to destroy him. And not only that, it was like once the lies started coming out and stuff started happening, how do I look arguing with a woman on national TV? That's not the way I was raised. And
wait, can I pause you there? So are you saying that? Are you talking about the lies from Alexis in terms of what she was saying to you?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah. So,
right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So ultimately, you know, as she kind of went through that, and to her credit, like I said, I'm not here to bash nobody. This ain't no clapback. Emotions are involved, and it happens daily. When people are married and they go through a divorce, they utilize the kids as pawns. I mean, you know, it's a thin line between love and hate, and nobody really wants to be rejected, let alone be rejected on national TV or feel like they being betrayed. Like, that's one of the biggest things we deal with when we date today, is we scared of the unknown. Am I wasting my time? So, you know, and it's already bad enough when it's just two individuals, let alone the entire world and a couple of other players, you know. So with that being said, once it started coming out, it was like, it wasn't even worth it to me addressing, you know, because the people that were going to believe me were going to believe me. The people that were going to believe Alexis was going to believe Alexis. And the way they kind of played it is they had a little part early on where I was meeting with Divine's friends and they did a little playback. and that was kind of the setup, so that later on it would kind of be a juggle. But the issue was when I was meeting with Divine, every other week your emotions change if you were between two people, right? Yeah. Because I would go on multiple dates with Divine. I'd be like, man, I'm really feeling her. And then I end up going on a date with Alexis, and then I'm like, all right, I'm feeling her. So at that point in time on my birthday, being my birthday, being an emotional day, Divine asked me a question. She said, if you had to choose the day, who would you run off in the sunset with? Mm-hmm. And I said it would be you, which is what I felt that day. I never said number one. I never said you're my number one. I never said you're my number one. That's why, if you recall, on the rooftop, I said I never told either one of y'all were number one, because I really genuinely wanted to see who was there for me, because either or, if you tell one of them, hey, you my number one, now they can move around and maybe date somebody else or whatever, because they kind of know where you stand. But I wanted them to do what they needed to do, and at the end of the day, if they was feeling me, then it would reveal itself. Okay. And that's what happened,
Okay. So to press that issue a bit more, because obviously the big thing that happened was obviously the fact that, and I think I even came to you after when Alexis did a post interview after, she came out straight and backed her case and said, London definitely lied. The kiss happened. This whole truck situation with the car, it definitely happened, and you guys kissed. She blatantly said, you definitely kissed. So I'm not a tea person. You already know this. I'm not about tea. I'm about clearing things and making it very clear and very succinct. So I want to ask you a direct question. Did this kiss situation happen? Did you kiss Alexis at that point that she was talking about? I know we kissed previously, but that point that she's talking about, did you kiss?
Absolutely not. That's what I guess it was almost to the point where it was unreal. If you look at historically the way her character was throughout the entire time, it was like at that point it was irrelevant. So why are you consistently bringing it up? And that's why I had Divine at that point in time, so nothing else really mattered, right? Okay. It was kind of like, hey, I'm moved on. I hear a whole bunch of background noise and white noise going on in the background, but I could care less about it. So this sounds terrible, and I said this actually during an interview while I was in one of the confession booths. I said it got to the point where Alexis was what you call a suicidal jump off. And I hate to say that because suicide is something that I take dearly, very, very seriously. But I'm talking about from a relationship standpoint.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't care if she ruined mine and her reputation. Yeah. And that's kind of the point it got there. And we did, like at the fire pit and certain things that happen, once you get to know somebody, you know how to attack them. You know what's going to really bother them. And for example, when we were at the retreat, at the cabin, the biggest issue that I had with Alexis is I had already made my decision before that night had even progressed. I knew that Divine was the direction I was going. When I was talking to Mario, and Mario basically, he put it out there. So I had to let it be known at that time. And when that happened, that's when it got really bad. And Alexis started saying, you was playing me. Now, granted, she didn't see the show play out at that point, right? So she was like, man, you absolutely played me this entire time. You knew you was going to go with Divine. Little did she know Divine had been through the exact same thing she was, because I wasn't telling either lady who was number one and who was number two, because I really wanted to figure it out. I wanted to see, even if I ended up losing it all, I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see what would transpire. Does that make sense?
So, and I get that, because we spoke about that as well. Without implicating anybody, because I'm not really about that life. Obviously, in terms of, you stated categorically this kiss did not happen. Now, Alexis obviously wasn't alone in saying that they believed Alexis's story. It was Alexis, it was Ashima, it was, who's the other person? There was another person, Tondi as well, who said they were at the house, etc., etc., when all of this stuff was kind of playing down. Now, they didn't say they saw it, but they said they kind of believed it. I want to kind of ask, obviously, why do you think that they took her side and not per se took your word for the fact that this kiss actually happened?
Okay, so I hate to kind of throw people's names out there because I know how it is. People get sensitive when you mention their names and, you know, any type of drama-filled situation. But all that I'm going to say is this, right? In that scenario, really think about this. Mm-hmm. You're going to lock your keys in the car in 2019 and don't have a key fob to get it open. You got to get somebody to open up your car door and drive your car to a house to go be with somebody else. And I'm going to pay for that and allow you to do that. I'm going to tell you something. Like right now, I'm about to kind of get my little OG situation going. As Jimmy said, I'm an OG. If I do that, you're going home with me, not going somewhere else. So if you really just look at all of the fine details, obviously Ashima, Tondi, Alexis are all cool. They hung out indefinitely outside the show. Obviously, in the wine bar, they all tag teamed up against Divine. You know, it's no secret that two of the fellas on the show were cool with each other. So you kind of got certain groups that ended up forming, right? You know, you got Divine and Reva, who, you know, extremely strong. You know, they homies, like off screen. You know, me, Mario, and Carrie, we like brothers. We consistently talk. I talk to Terrell. You know, everybody's kind of cordial, let me say that, but that's kind of the group that I finesse with majority of the time. With that being said, you know, who's going to have who's back? And at that point, I think Divine had already kind of stated her case, and I think everybody, you know, she's a professional as well. I think everybody was worried about their image during the reunion. You know, everybody was worried about really lashing out and ruining certain perceptions, because at the end of the day, after that reunion was over with, we got to get back to our normal life. Like all the rest of that stuff is over with. We have to get back to what keeps my lights on, what pays my bills.
Of course.
You follow me? So I think at that point we had an opportunity to come down off of that high and realize, hey, man, we acted out in some situations. So we just got to make it through. And that's why, you know, during the show, Divine had a conversation with Alexis and was like, hey, let's just keep this, cool. You know what I mean, professional. Let's not go into, you know, what they want. You know, they want the drama, and drama sells. I get it. Sex sells. I mean, it's, you know, it's the world we live in. You know, as the old saying goes, you know, Littleblackbook, you know, as the old saying goes, bro, you know, lies and bad news will travel around the world 4 to 5 times, while good news and the truth is still trying to put its boots on. I'm going to say that for you one more time, bro. Bad news and lies will travel around the world 3 to 4 times, while good news and the truth is still trying to put its boots on. So with that being said, that's what we want, right? We want the drama. We want, you know, the deceit. We want, you know, all the stuff that we deal with. And I didn't go on the show for that, bro. That's not the theme. That's not why London decided to go on Ready to Love. You know, I went on there actually to try to show people that you could be successful, you could look halfway decent. And I'm not saying that from a conceited standpoint, but I feel like it's all about the way you feel internally, it'll come out externally. You know, and like I talked about before, I could be attracted to somebody that's heavy set. I could be attracted to somebody that's skinny. I could be attracted to somebody that got a birthmark on their face. It don't matter. Imperfections are what make you unique. And I think a lot of times in this world, again, we want to be this cookie cut mold. And that's what happens, you know. Drama sells. Drama's ratings. So in turn, a lot of that was created, and a lot of that was edited throughout the show.
Okay, I can rock with that. I guess obviously just to even kind of stay away from that, we're going to go back to the difficult off-road questions. I know there's plenty of them people want to be asking those, but I guess to kind of draw us back to the actual show. So Ready to Love, this was the show that you was on in Atlanta as well. Why did you actually go on the show and participate in this? You know, you're a good-looking guy, you're very tall, strong, big gang, everything like that. Got the suave looks as well. But why did someone like London, who's also well financed as well, why did you decide to go on something like Ready to Love?
I mean, I had early on in my life, like you stated, I played football. And obviously stands for not for long and not for London, right? So I had to incorporate, back into society. And I think during that process, I went through a little depression, and I went through a situation that a lot of people that play football go through. I went from one day signing autographs to the next day asking for them. So, I went from being the man to not being the man. I went from making league minimum to making $11.25 an hour.
Wow.
That's what happened when I started with the company I work for today, 18 years strong. So I had an opportunity to upgrade my lifestyle, and I got offered a position in Atlanta, and I was comfortable where I was, but sometimes being comfortable isn't comfortable, if you know what I mean. You got to always want to progress. I felt like I was on a treadmill. I was making movement, but I really wasn't going anywhere. I was making progress. I was burning calories. I had the incline. I was doing what was necessary to stay in shape in this world, but I wasn't seeing anything differently. I was seeing the exact same, cars pass. I was seeing the exact same, coffee mug. I was seeing everything was like I was working in an assembly line, and that's not who I am. So when I came to Atlanta, I left everything that was known to me, shit. And excuse my language, I try not to cuss, but in Houston, I ran the city like P. Diddy. You know what I mean? Take that. Like I was that guy just because years and years of treating people right. And that's what I always did. Is I'm always a guy that kind of sits back and wants everybody else to have a good time. With that being said, I came to Atlanta, and I had a couple of friends here. I mean, good friends, don't get me wrong. I attended college with one and just knew another one from years, and, a couple of sprinkles here and there. And actually, I had a friend that I grew up with next door in San Diego, California, that I grew up with 17 kids in one house. That's where I came from initially. So with that being said, I knew nobody. I knew nothing. I was 41 years old. I felt like I had it going on. And I mentioned, during the initial interview, I said Thought Pocket. And I caught some HELLL from that. My mom was so mad, and a lot of times people get it confused. I have a bonus mom. I'm not going to say stepmom. I have a bonus mom. My biological mom passed away in 2016. God rest her soul. Appreciate it. So ultimately, it was one of those things that I finally said, you know what, I'm ready, and I want to figure it out. And I went through the process thinking, what are the chances that I'm going to be chosen, right? It's like any other thing. Because it was, probably millions of applicants, 400 in-person interviews, and only 10 men and 10 women ended up on the show. So it was my opportunity to mingle with people that are successful like myself to try to figure it out. Okay. And when I mention Thought Pockets, it's not meaning in a disrespectful manner, but I just attract the women that I'm not attracted to, because I said I'm not gonna say I'm flashy. I enjoy nice things, but I don't wear or buy them for people's approval. I buy them because I like them, because I worked hard for them, because I grew up in a house with 17 kids, and we didn't have nothing, but we still shared the nothing that we had. We had love. So with that being said, a lot of times women that I'm attracted to are a little deterred from dating me because they feel like it's going to be a lot, because I look like somebody that's going to rip their heart straight out their chest. So me going on the show, it backfired because it had me looking like I was some type of player, man, and jokester, and you know, and it perceived me in a lens that is completely opposite of what I stand for. They showed one facet of my personality, and I always talk about mental health, right? And I created 3 personalities. I control them, so I'm not bipolar. You know, I got Mr. Dunlap, I got London, and I got D-Lap. And friends and family that have known me for years know that that's what I stand by. And that's the way I convert into society because I don't feel like I fit in. And again, that goes back to that cookie cut. Everybody wants to fit in and wants everybody to love them. And they don't want to accept their imperfections or their blemishes or their stretch marks or, you know, whatever it is. And that's what I wanted to expose to the world, that you could be, you know, you could have swag, you could be flashy, and you could still be in a monogamous relationship, and you could still, you know, progress and grow. And just because I'm 41 years old, never married, no kids, doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. It just means that I didn't go through the motion. You know, I didn't waste somebody's time. And not saying that somebody that got married early and divorced, you know, something was wrong with it. That wasn't my path. You know, I chose a different path, a different direction. The breadcrumbs that the man upstairs left me took me a different direction than what it took most people. And I followed them, and I trusted them in faith and went with them, you know. So that's why I went on there, you know. Honestly, I had nothing to lose. You know, I was single. I was new to Atlanta. Why not? Open channel. Okay.
I rock with that. Obviously you watched the review, so and many people have watched my reviews. I speak quite hard on the men, yeah. And this season we had yourself and we had Mario, and I think you said it yourself even about even the show kind of perpetrating a certain way. And I even myself, as watching it as an audience member, by the takes that they gave us, by the videotape that they gave us, it looked like yourself and Mario were the game players. And it looked like you two were just out here, you know, enjoying the spoils of war. You know, you got 2 ladies fighting over you. You got Mario also with 2 ladies fighting over him as well. Almost 3 at one point, you know. So I kind of guess wanted to ask the question, which is, why did you actually have those 2 connections then and not just focus on one?
Well, the way it initially started, right? I mean, the whole scenario was to date everybody. I went on dates with all of the women, you know, just about. It may have been 1 or 2 that I didn't go on with because they were eliminated early on. But the majority of the women we went on dates with, I mean, I probably did 50 different dates. And you would go on dates for 4 hours at a time, and they would only show, you know, 2 minutes of it. So you have an opportunity to develop connections with multiple women. But the first day, you know, you got pheromones, right? For those who don't know what pheromones are, it's things that you know, kind of give you butterflies in your stomach. You kind of feel a certain type of attraction. You feel chemistry. I move real strongly off of the energy. You know, there's been times that if I go to the grocery store and I walk in there and the energy's off, I leave, you know, just because I can feel it and I trust my gut with energy. So the first mixer we had, you know, as we went around and I communicated with people, I figured out that I had a connection with Alexis and Divine, and I focused on them too. You know, and that's just what happened. And that happened day 1 throughout the entire show. I kept it consistent, you know, but I went on other dates and I was open-minded to the dates that I was on, but I still had the strongest connection with Alexis and Divine.
Okay. So in your honest opinion, because obviously a lot of women are watching this live and they watch the show as well. Many people were commenting on the reviews I was doing, and then I think their frustration was, and again, because obviously I'm gonna say obviously the caveat is obviously the way that the media portrays certain things. All right, that's the way they.
Yeah. You could be straight up with me. You know what I mean? We good.
Yeah. So obviously the women's complaint in this particular thing was that especially with yourself and Mario, is that there was no drilling down. So although you had two connections, it seemed like you was floating like a butterfly, but not stinging like a bee. You were just literally kind of just hovering and not really slamming down saying, okay, do you know what? This is the connection I'm going to go after, and just go after it. It looked like you were kind of, yourself and Mario, just kind of just like, we just want to just kind of play a little bit, and whoever chooses me, kind of, that's the one I'm going to roll with. Is that fair to say? Would I be doing you a disservice?
I agree and I disagree, right?
Yeah, go for it.
And this is why. People fail to realize that the heart can love in many different angles. You know, a lot of times people feel like, hey, I could just love one way or I could love another. The issue is you got to make a decision eventually. That's why a lot of times you see men that date multiple women, because each woman fulfills a particular part of his heart that he needs, you know, whether it's encouragement, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, you know, whether it's mental. It doesn't matter. So in turn, the heart can love in multiple different directions. So again, you had to really analyze it and try to figure it out. And here it is, you're dating two beautiful women and you're in the middle and you're trying to decide what's going on. And you're not doing anything wrong because they know it. It's not like, you know, you're being deceptive. And I think that's what happens a lot of times in society is people go through the dating process. They date multiple people, and eventually you need to narrow it down, and that doesn't happen. And I think that's why you end up in the middle of the road. Not only that, I didn't know what else was going on. I only knew what went on when I was on a date with that individual person. So some of the stuff y'all were seeing while the show was aired, I had no clue about that. And we only discussed what we discussed in the cigar bar, right? You're not going to necessarily show your hand, but you may let them know that you got an interest. You know, men, we operate a little bit different around other men versus how the women were in a wine bar, right?
Yeah.
So we were just fortunate enough to have two connections, Mario and I, and that's what happened. You know, I couldn't have drawn it up. If I only had one connection, then I would have rolled out with that one connection and tried to figure it out. But I had to.
So, again, to touch on that then, so obviously you got that little love triangle that was going on. What made you have two connections in the sense of what were you getting from each person that was making you say, hey, okay, you're bringing something to the table, you're bringing something to the table. What was the difference? What are the differences that you were getting from Divine and Alexis that was actually drawing you to each individual person?
Okay. That's a great question. So initially Divine, I mean, she let it be known her interest was strong in me, which I appreciated, you know, as time progressed. And it was almost so strong to the point where I was like, is she just doing this because we're on a show, or is she genuinely interested in me? Because it was so much at one time. You know, it was just like, hey, London's my number one. He's it. Like, boom, boom, boom. That's boo, etc. Even as you saw the first scene where I was talking to Alexis and she had Chica come and break up our conversation. You know, I didn't know that happened until after the show was aired. And it was just one of those things to where you were like, all right, is she being authentic or is there something else to it? And then the flip side was with Alexis, it was kind of the curiosity, you know, the potential, the unknown, which, you know, we all want a roller coaster ride. Right? We do. But sometimes you get too old for that roller coaster ride. You know, you can't ride it like you used to. You know, you don't want that emotional hamstring pull because you're dealing with somebody who is irrational or is causing your blood pressure to elevate. You know what I mean? So it was kind of really trying to pan it out. And everybody dates differently. When I date somebody, I see them, I like what I like, as Jimmy would say. I went and I pursued the women that I had a connection with, and I dialed in. You know what I mean? I had a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure it out, having conversations with them, really trying to get to know them. And this was a speed date process. While this was going on, I'm still going to work. You know, I'm still waking up. I'm still, you know, doing my day-to-day activity. So that's really how all of that truly transpired. Did I answer that question for you?
Yeah, in some sense. I guess obviously. Okay, so then what broke the camel's back that made you say, do you know what? It's not Alexis, it's Divine. Because I love Divine. I was saying it from the jump. I like Divine. You know what I'm saying? It's a great woman. I love the classiness. I love the elegance that she brought to it. I mean, I love the fact that she wanted to stab the chicken to make sure you knew that, you know, you can't mess around too tough. You know what I'm saying? So what made you break that? Do you know what? This is it. I'm going to go after Divine and potentially not Alexis.
Well, ultimately, I always knew in the back of my head kind of where it was, and it was a 50-50 shot. And you had to ask yourself the question, and not from a perspective of settling, but from a perspective of, is a bird in the hand better than two in the bush? Or, you know, what do I see in the future, long term? Is this something that's short term to have fun or whatever the case may be, but I couldn't deal with the emotional lapse? You know what I mean? I can't wake up in the morning and motivate my team and go to work and come home to I don't know situation. I can't deal with that, you know, just being sporadic. And it's nothing against her. No knock against her. It's just certain personalities, that's the way it goes. So once I started realizing that Divine was being genuine, that's when it started turning. And then that's when I started seeing it. You know, like when we went to the cabin and she was so ladylike during that entire situation. She could have went left, but she kept her composure. And a lot of times that's what it's about is, you know, how are you going to react when things aren't good, right? It's easy to do stuff. When everything going great, it's easy to react and be right there. You know, I always talk about you got friends that are there for you when things are good. You got friends that are there for you when things are bad. It's rare you got friends that are there when things are far in between, right? Just right now, you know, with COVID-19 going on, some people are down in the dumps about it. Other people are trying to find opportunity. So it just depends on the way you react to any particular situation. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? So that's really what started turning, you know, the wheel. And when I went to the cabin, that was before all the other stuff broke out. That was really my thought process. I was like, I need to make a decision or I'm going to lose both of them.
I read that. And even just talking about the Alexis situation, I think we spoke about this as well. Because I was like, I was thrown off by this when your ex was they brought your ex into this situation to have a conversation with Alexis. I mean, that was a jewel for me, watching that kind of back and forth. But I think you kind of shared some jewels behind that. I want to just kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of explain what happened there. Like, did they consult you to ask you to bring an ex to make someone to talk with Alexis? I don't know what was the kind of thinking behind it. I don't know why that would be a case anyway. But I wanted you to shed a bit of light on that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to make sure. It sounds like it might be two parts to this question. So are you saying that was it our idea to bring an ex? No.
Okay.
No. That was not our idea to bring an ex to talk to somebody else that you were interested in. But I could kind of see the synopsis behind it. You know, it was really just to, I guess, figure out what type of person you really are. Like, is it matching up with, you know, what you're being perceived as while you go through this process or this journey on the show. So that's really, I guess, what it was. It's not anything. It wasn't my idea. I mean, I would never, you know, because you feel like both parties, it's going to be an awkward situation. But I've never had a bad ex. I've never had a bad experience when I've dated somebody. We've always had a solid bond. And sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I know how to separate that. And my ex is a phenomenal woman. I mean, you know, anybody I truly dated most of the time are good people, are good-hearted. You know, things just didn't work out. There's nothing wrong with that.
I appreciate that. I guess I'm going to have to throw another spanner in the works, isn't it? You know, throw another spanner in the works, because obviously I want you to exonerate your name in this, you know what I'm saying? there was a three-way call, apparently. And many people are asking this question. London, was there a three-way call? Or was Alexis bugging once more?
Come on, man.
I gotta ask him, man. I gotta ask. I gotta ask. Was there a three-way call?
There was a date.
Okay.
That me and Alexis went on that was never aired, but it showed in the trailer.
Okay.
It said, "You're a smart man, but you got your stupid hat on."
Yeah.
That was basically me that was our last and final. That was really cutting the straw. That was letting it be known that, hey, I'm moving in this direction. This is the way I'm going, et cetera, et cetera. And I wouldn't trust Alexis on a three-way call with Divine ever in life. I mean, really think about what would happen with something like that. That's a lot of trust in somebody to jump on a three-way call with somebody else. I mean, we not in high school, you know what I mean, by any means. That's just insane to do something to that magnitude.
So you're saying that's a categorical, that's a lie from her then? That never happened?
Never. And ultimately, I think I told you this before, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the conflicts that we have, a lot of the stuff that's coming up, why is it coming up at the end? You know, it's more or less in shots. If that was the case, that should have been mentioned early on, right? I agree. Why would you hold back on something like that and wait to the end to disclose all that stuff? You know, that just kind of shows some of the, vindictive characteristics that were being displayed. And it was almost like when it happened, it was so insulting that I was like, why should I even address it? And even right now, that's why I'm just kind of like, oh man, here we go. Here we go again, with the kiss, with the car, with the three-way call. It just, it's like, come on, man. Like, seriously? And it's like, what is the validity to it? Hypothetically speaking, even if it took place, what good does it do? My grandma used to tell me all the time, right? Go, Joe. My grandma used to tell me all the time, before you speak, ask yourself a question. Was it nice? Was it kind? And was it effective? Was it nice? Was it kind? And was it effective? If it's not one of those three things, then why even speak on it? Some things are just not meant to be addressed. In my opinion. That's the way I am.
Okay.
Because I'm one of those guys that if I start, I can't stop.
Okay.
So if I started getting into a confrontation over my feelings with something, it's going to really escalate. And some people say 0 to 100. I'll be 0 to 1,000,000. So that's just, my Southeast San Diego, La Paz Street, the dip, 4 corners of death, like that would kick in. I just look like this, bro. I just look like this. You know what I'm saying? I just look like this. You feel me? So I just look like this. So don't take my kindness for weakness. Don't take my jokes for not being serious.
Okay.
So,
no, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Obviously, with the situation with Divine, obviously, I think I was rooting more for the Divine one. There was a scenario, obviously, I just want to ask your kind of feelings around it, because obviously, man to man, do you understand? Seen another guy, I guess, kiss the girl that you kind of feeling. I'm assuming, were you aware of the kiss that happened? Because obviously this happened when they were going on a date. But as you said earlier on, you don't know what happens on other dates. You don't get shown that. You don't get told that. That just came out. And your reaction, it seemed like on the reunion, like you hadn't seen it before. So I guess I'm kind of asking, had you seen that kiss, number one? Or had you been told about the kiss, sorry? And two, what was your kind of feelings around that?
Man, Boy, you digging down deep right now, ain't you? You know what I mean? Let me dust off. Let me dust off that emotion box real quick. Let me get that emotion box dusted off. Throw some chalk up in the air like LeBron James. That a lot of the scenes that we saw during the reunion, we never saw. Okay. I had no idea about that kiss whatsoever. Wow. So that kiss did throw me off a little bit because we were pretty open about certain things that we did, you know, the entire time that we dated, and that was never mentioned. And it was a little, you know, it was a conversation about that, and it threw me off because I was like, whoa, like that really happened. You know, it was almost like my eyes were deceiving me. But at the same token, it's kind of like I never asked. Even though sometimes, I'm not going to say that's a belligerent lie or partial truth, but a lot of times I never dug and asked that. And maybe, you know, to her point, she didn't see a big deal in it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she thought I had kissed Alexis because, you know, you don't know. So I can't really say why I didn't know about it. But yes, it did make me feel some type of way.
And then obviously, you know, the person that was involved in that kiss with Divine was also involved with pursuing Alexis as well. Obviously, I know you mentioned about the retreat. Obviously, the situation. I think one of the key kind of scenarios that happened was, and I think I spoke on this one quite strongly in the review. I was like, it looked like Brent got finished because when they cut it, right, it looked like obviously Brent was talking to Alexis, and I think many people as well agree with me. We see a certain cut, so the cut looked like Brent was talking to Alexis. You've come over and said, "Can I talk to Alexis?" And Alexis has basically gone, "Yeah, Brent, you can sit somewhere, and you can chill, and I'm gonna talk to London." My kind of question here is obviously, is that how it played out? And was your intention to cut across him? Like, just let's keep it 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because man to man, ego to ego, you know what I'm saying? Game to game, player to player. Yeah. Was that your intent to cut him?
No, not at all. So we got off the bus, and now I feel like I'm kind of snitching a little bit. That ain't really my aura, but the energy on the ride there between Alexis and I was kind of off, and I didn't know what was going on. And later she did mention that she felt like I was liking more Divine's pictures on Instagram than hers. So she kind of had a chip on her shoulder when we got off the bus. So that left the window open for her to be pursued, right? So if she got pursued the entire time, you know, granted they were building up their connection, etc., I wasn't going to interrupt another man while they're in the midst of stuff. So we had a conversation in the kitchen, and this part was edited out. And Alexis was like, "You could come and you could talk to me." And I'm like, "I'm not going to interrupt you while you having a conversation with somebody else." And when this happened, we were in the kitchen, and I actually mentioned that person's name, and they overheard it and felt like, "Hey, you know, I'm talking about them. That's why I'm just leaving names out of this, right? Because I don't need nothing." You know what I mean? But ultimately, she was like, "Hey, you could come and you can interrupt me if you need to." And I'm like, "Nah, I ain't gonna do that." And she was like, "Nah, it's cool." So when we were sitting down at the fire pit, this is really what happened. We're sitting there, and Mario, you know, he kind of threw me underneath the bus. I think we already talked about that. He was like, I kind of consulted to him because we were both in the same situation. And I was like really explaining to him the depth between Divine versus Alexis. And like, hey, I kind of got my decision, but I really need to ride it out and see what's going to happen because I knew Divine had went on a date, you know, with another person and she probably had other connections. But, you know, I was kind of sitting back trying to let things play out, right? Because it's like anything, when the grass is cut, the snake's going to show, right? You know, as Jay-Z would say. So while we were sitting down at the fire pit, I don't know if you remember, but I basically got cussed out in so many ways by Divine. She was like, I'm tired of, you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, I got to go. It's either now or never. So I made a decision. I said, Alexis is a roller coaster ride. And I said, Divine is like my ride or die. I've realized that. And when I said that, the emotions were so heavy that Alexis was removed from the fire pit, right? She got up, she walked away. So at that point, it was still kind of off, right? Because it was like I was pressured to do it. So of course, the energy, the animosity, like everything was built up about that whole scenario. So I'm sitting there and I look at Mario and I'm like, man, I'm about to get up and go. And he's like, man, I'm about to go too, bro.
Yeah.
So I get up and I leave, right? I'm like, I'm just going to, go get some fresh air. Like I got it up off my chest. Now I got to, damage control got to take place because I didn't want Divine to feel like, hey, I chose her because of what was transpiring with Alexis at that time. And as I was walking away, she was basically kind of, going off on me in so many ways. And you don't know what's going to be aired. So you got to address certain stuff when people are calling you names or when certain things are going on, because I would have looked like a simp if I would have just kept on walking. So I walked over to her and said, hey, can I talk to you? She said yes, right? And at that point, I guess, the other party felt like I was being disrespectful, but she said yes. And I was like, hey, this is, I haven't been able to talk to her because y'all been together the entire time. And now we got some things that we need to work out. And, and I think that I care about her at this point, that closure is needed, right? Some people feel like closure may not be needed, but I would want somebody to do that for me if I was in a situation and my emotions were involved. I think closure was needed. So at that point, Alexis felt like I was playing her the entire time, and she was unaware of the conversations that I would have with Devon was going through the same thing she was because I wasn't choosing. I was just really trying to figure it out because I knew they was going on multiple dates, so you really didn't know. So I went over to her to address that issue, and she knew that she could pull some of my heartstrings by saying, you played me, you wasn't really into me, the entire time it was all about Divine, and that wasn't the case. So that's what happened there. And then that's why the high five happened and made it look like she broke up with me. No. That's why the following episode, she walks up in the miniskirt. Yeah. You know what I mean? To make London jealous. So, that is what it is, man, right?
Yeah. All right. The time is going to go to 1 hour, so it's going to cut off soon. So I think we'll pause it here. Oh, I see that Divine's in the chat. So let's pause it. Let's pause it here.
She like, tell it.
Let's get tasty. Minerals, baby.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have the minerals, baby. You don't have the minerals. You don't have the minerals, baby. You don't have the minerals. Let's restart the live here because it will go off in a minute if we don't. Let's restart the live. So, guys, if you guys have enjoyed this, make sure you join us back. We're going to be back in about a minute or two. We're going to restart the live and we're going to continue the conversation with some real questions and a bit more about Ready to Love. Appreciate you guys. All right.
Save it, bro. Like, press on the share the story, please. Save it, man.
I got you.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yo, 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 yo. What's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Let's get it back popping. We'll get it back popping.
Yes, brother. Can you see me?
Hold on, it ain't came on yet. I can't see you.
Hold on, let me exit. Hold on.
Are you able to join? I'm gonna cancel and reconnect you.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Boom. Let's go. Not bad about that.
I'm like Mike Tyson, man. I'm come back at 53, man. Y'all ain't ready.
Ain't ready for this, boy.
Yeah.
I can see Divine's also in again. Appreciate that as well.
You do not have the minerals, baby.
You ain't ready for that, baby. You ain't got the minerals. Oh, that was off, but let's go, guys. Come and get a little run.
Oh, man.
God, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Yeah, I see people all in. They're ready, you know. People are ready. All right. I see people are ready. They're firing.
Yeah, coming off. We were about up to 100 and something, so we'll let it get.
Yeah, we were, man.
Let it get popping.
Trust me. How you feeling though so far, man? You know, you feeling good?
Yeah, man. Yeah, a lot of this, man, it needed to be addressed. I'm kind of glad getting it up off my chest, man. So, like I said, a lot of mad respect. I know right now it's super late over in South Africa, but man, they brought me up out my shell, man, because I'm a Cancer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a Cancer. I go into my shell, you know, a lot of times, bro. And like I said, I got a lot of respect for you, man, like for real. I mean, I even saying, hey, sometimes you shun me, man, but I love looking at your YouTube. And I'm serious. Those of you that are on this live, I'm not saying this ain't no promo, this ain't no nothing. This is like me telling you to read a scripture in the Bible or something. You know, to that magnitude. You need to follow this dude. This dude really spits knowledge related to relationships, and he has that gift. And not a lot of people have it. I'm serious. Like, look at his reviews. Straight up. Even though he done, like I said, you done came from me, bro. You done came from me. Jersey in the building.
More love. Jersey's in. Okay.
Yeah. We got anybody on here from South Africa? Because what time is it there right now? It's like 11?
1 o'clock right now.
1 o'clock. Anybody on here from South Africa in the building?
There's a few that I've seen. Hey, Divine said I was off a couple of times. Hey, Divine, we need to get a little interview going so we can address these things I was off by. You know what I'm saying, Divine? You hear me? You got to give me a little interview, Divine, so you can address these things that were off. You know what I'm saying? I'll be good. I'll holler later. Get an interview.
Yes. There we go right there. South Carolina building.
Go.
Represent your hood, and if you don't, then you must be a buster. Represent your hood, Yeah, H-Town in the building. H-Town, H-Town, my second home. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
All right.